Now, Labour may have won the general election, but one of the other parties celebrating their results is the Liberal Democrats.
Yeah, they're going to have 72 MPs in the next Parliament. That's 6 times the number they had at the last election. Let's speak to one of them now, their Chief Whip, Wendy Chamberlain, who's smiling. Morning, joins us from Westminster. Have you got used to this idea of having so many MPs on your benches?
Not quite. I'm smiling because really you've just outlined the scale of the Liberal Democrat success, and indeed what I as Chief Whip will be doing today is welcoming all those new MPs to Parliament and helping them get the best possible start that they can.
72 seats you won. It's a massive improvement. It makes you the 3rd biggest party in Parliament, but compared with Labour's 411 seats, you're in a different league, aren't you? How do you exert power and influence when they are going to be so dominant with this massive majority?
Well, I think what you've outlined is the 72 seats is a massive increase for us. So we are the 3rd party by some distance. And in fact, we are nearer to the Conservatives as the official opposition than we are to the remaining smaller parties. So as a 3rd party, we've got different privileges and rights. Ed Davey will have 2 Prime Minister's questions a week as opposed to 1 and 3 in the last Parliament. And we'll be thinking about select committee places and those kind of things as well. But really, what we elected at the election was a number of local champions who were standing up for their communities, and I know that they will themselves have individual aims that they want to deliver for those local communities. So part of my role as Chief Whip is allowing people to hit the ground running so they can deliver on them as quickly as possible.
But how can they really deliver as the 3rd party in Parliament?
Well, it's about building relationships. We exist in a 2-party system that's driven by the first past the post system. But I think what often is lost in the heat of the election is the fact that MPs are people, we build relationships. You know, when I was one of only 11 MPs coming into Parliament for the Liberal Democrats in 2019, you think, how can you do anything? But during my time in Parliament, I made changes to parliamentary standards twice, and I delivered a private member's bill. So from the smaller parties, it absolutely can be done. But I think we have made a great leap forward as being the 3rd party again in a much, much bigger group.
Obviously, you're going to be on the other side of the House of Commons from Labour, but are you prepared to work with Labour if required?
I think we're prepared to work with any party when we're looking at what the priorities are. You know, it's quite clear that the UK is not in a great place. I'm representing a Scottish seat. We increased our representation there as well. You know, my view was the verdict was we had 2 governments that were failing us. And so we were very clear in our manifesto. We put NHS and social care at the heart of it, and we'll be very keen to see what we can do and what we can work. And in fact, I believe Ed Davey said yesterday to Labour, steal our best policies, because surely we want what's best for the public generally.
You guys made a big feature of social care during the campaign. A lot of families watching this morning, it means an awful lot to them, social care, and they want a long-term solution, which hasn't really happened over the last few years. Do you think there is the potential of all parties coming together and coming up with a solution that they can all deal with?
Yeah, John, you're absolutely right. You know, Ed Davey talking about his own caring experience during the election campaign resonated for many. I know I've spoken to constituents who felt it was very powerful. And our manifesto, yes, it put it at the heart, but we did say that we needed to work for a cross-party consensus to deal with social care, so that we're supporting the unpaid carers who want to look after family members for as long as possible, but also ensure that the right provision is there for people so that they can do that.
So you would work with Labour, like potentially like some sort of cross-party grouping that could look specifically at social care?
That's what we said in our manifesto. We needed to deal with this on a cross-party basis. We need to take the politics out of it, because no matter what government and what party is in power, they are going to be dealing with that as people live for longer with more long-term health conditions. OK, and if Labour agree to that and somehow you all come up with a social care future that you can all be proud of and happy with, where does that leave you at the next election? Doesn't that sort of take away your identity in a way? Well, it shows that absolutely that Liberal Democrats can deliver. I think one of the important things about this election was the fact that we were winning in places where Labour could not, where we presented a very clear alternative to the Conservatives in those seats. You know, Davy called it the blue ball, and in Scotland, you know, obviously we're fighting a different contest against the SNP, and that was the case for all of our 6 seats in Scotland. So it is about that political identity, but people always say, the public always say, that they want to see that their politicians working together for the best. I would hope that if the Liberal Democrats are seen to doing that, I can't see how that wouldn't benefit.
But you know, I'm saying that you were very strategic, forensic in this election, particularly trying to target Conservatives, some of them prominent Conservatives, and unseat them and take their places and deal with their apparent unpopularity. If they're not there anymore, at the next election, you might struggle over the next few years to have the same kind of energy behind you. You've got to almost redefine yourselves, haven't you, going forward?
There's clearly a lot of work going forward. You know, we all remember 2015 and how painful that was for the party. But here we are within 10 years back, and actually with the biggest number of MPs that I think is since 1923 with the Liberals. I think we've obviously got a lot to do, a lot to prove, but I can assure you that all the MPs that I'm going to be seeing today are absolutely up for that.
Wendy Chamberlain from the Lib Dems, thank you for joining us.